he said he jumped out the window. He saved his own life. He said, I tell the young fellas in my office, he said, drink the last drink, dance with the prettiest girl, because tomorrow you may die. So that's what he learned. Life can be very short. And it was terribly short for so many of those children who died. And I often want to draw a lesson from this. The legacy of those kids who died and some who were terribly injured, terribly burned and so forth, is that we have better, more safe schools today throughout our country. And even at that time, Our Lady of the Angels was an old building. It formerly was a chapel, and they rebuilt classrooms on the second floor. And that's where all the deaths occurred, on the north wing of the school. And the school had was not connected directly to the Chicago Fire Department. The closest firebox was a block and a half away. So if anybody wanted to ring the fire department up, they would have to run a block and a half to get to the firebox over on Chicago Avenue. So the call came in late. The fire, as I later determined, was set by a 10-year-old kid, 5th grade student. He was a little firebug. And I don't know how much to say about his personal life, but he was the product of his mother and his mother's father. So he was a troubled kid right from day one. He was a little firebug. He used to set fires in garbage cans and so forth around in the neighborhood. And he was questioned after the school fire by the investigators, and evidently they just passed him by. I figured he was just another kid, and the main question they were asking of the boys, did you ever smoke cigarettes down in that stairwell where the fire started? Well, this boy, his mother moved him to Cicero a year after the school fire, and he set fires out there. And finally, I interviewed a youth officer from the Cicero Police Department, and he interviewed this boy, and he's, wanted to find out about where he went to school. And first, he said he went to this public school out in Cicero. And he said, where did you go to school before that? He said, well, I went to Our Lady of the Angels. Bingo, the light went on this youth officer's head. And he said, maybe we should talk to this boy a little more. And they did. They questioned him quite a bit. And of course, he denied having anything to do with the school fire. And the mother was so upset that she called a person, and he said, perhaps an attorney, and the attorney said to her, perhaps you should take your son to a lie detector guy, who was a fellow by the name of John Reed. And I interviewed him, and John Reed took this boy's complete confession of setting the fire, page by page. He gave me the whole thing. He says, I have heart trouble. I said, I might not live this long. Here, take the whole thing. And he gave me the whole report of this boy's confession, exactly what he did. He asked to be excused from his room, and the lay teacher in his room was a young Italian woman. She was just new at teaching, evidently let him go to the washroom. But he went downstairs to the boys' washroom, but went into the stairwell where there was a big container about so high, fiber container filled with paper, trash. And he told this to John Reed. It was all in the confession, part of which is in the book, To Sleep with the Angels. But he lit 3 matches to make sure that thing was really going. He figured, why did he do this? Well, he tried to get a day off of school, He had no idea what was going to happen down there. That school was so old that the fire went up in through there was a pipe section down there. There was a sink with a broken pipe, and it went up through that pipe area, in between the walls, up into what we call a cockloft area, about a 3-foot area between the ceiling of the second floor classrooms and the roof. There's about a 3-foot area there, old, dusty, full of sawdust and stuff. And it got up in there, and it was a hidden fire. See, that fire was hidden and nobody saw it up there. It was a vicious fire which eventually caused part of the roof to come down, crash down. So, in any event, this boy confessed to the thing, and he went to youth court, and Judge Salela charged him with setting the fires in Cicero, but said that the story he told the lie detector guy could not be used because he felt there were inconsistencies in it. So they sent this boy out to a youth home in Michigan. He stayed there for a while, went into the Army, was over in Vietnam and drove a truck over there. And I got in touch with him later on, and I talked to him. And he said, "Oh, I don't want to talk about it, you know." And I asked him directly, you know, "Did you set that school fire?" No, that's so long ago, I don't want to remember about it. But later on, the second interview, time I talked to him, he said, "I still don't want to talk about it, you know." He said, "Besides," and I never put this in the book, he said, "Besides, that's a matter between me and my confessor." So he went and told one of the priests at Our Lady of the Angels that he set the school fire, and of course the priest could not convey that information. I know the priest that he told it to. But in any event, there are so many strange things that happen there. Father Hund, I don't think he's a priest anymore. I think he quit the priesthood. I couldn't find him years later, but I did interview him early on. And he said, I was in my rectory. The rectory was right next to the school, just like a gangway away from the school. And he said, I had the flu, I was sick, and I heard these kids yelling there from across the gangway in the second floor room there, that the school's on fire. So he said, I threw on a jacket, I ran over to the school, went downstairs and went to the stairwell. This is where the fire started. Went to the stairwell, and I started to go up the stairs, and my pants were starting to catch on fire. And I asked a couple of fire investigators, I would think that that stairwell would be roaring at that point, but they say no, a lot of it had gone right up. And that it went up straight that stairwell. It didn't get into the first floor of the school because they had a fire door on the first floor. But on the second floor, there was no fire door. So it got up through there and came into the hallway. And now, a lot of people criticize the nuns for not getting their kids out of the room. And I talked to Sister Davidas Divine, who had